Well, how many times have you avoided having your picture taken, or maybe you've been asked to be cropped out of a family photo, all because your double chin or your body rolls were visible? Now, our first reaction to an undoctored picture of ourselves might be to cringe. Some people might add a filter. Someone might go so far as actually to look into plastic surgery to alter your body because often society makes us feel a certain way about our appearance. But one local photographer says there's more to your double chin, my double chin, our double chins, than just fatness. Teri Hofford is a body image educator, and she joins us now via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about this, because you posted, and people watching on YouTube are going to see your beautiful post on Instagram to effectively celebrate double chins. You posted this beautiful post on Insta. What prompted it, and when do you think we became afraid of our double chins?
Yeah, well, I talk frequently about just accepting our bodies as they are. It's something I've been doing for the last decade with my photography and so on. But as far as when we started to probably dislike that part of ourselves, I know the 70s, 80s, and 90s were kind of the height of diet culture where we learned that being bigger is bad. And women specifically have been taught to be smaller and more subdued through that era. So I'm sure if you look back, there was also probably information about that, but that was kind of the crux of it because then it was those mothers, for the most part, mothers that impacted the daughters that now have a really hard time seeing parts of themselves in photographs.
And did that ring true to you ever in your own journey?
So I was quite lucky because my mom didn't actually subscribe to diet culture, which I always say grew up very blessed. As a child of the 80s and 90s, my mom never really talked about her body image in front of me. However, and I asked my sister for permission to talk about her, she struggles with her double chin. So I was asking her questions about why is that something you struggle with? For me, it wasn't an issue because I always grew up as a bigger child. So I had to learn early on that my body's just a body, it's doing its job, and to kind of accept that fact and look beyond myself as a body. But my sister grew up in more of a societally acceptable body. So it's harder for her to see her body change as she ages, change with motherhood and things like that, because she used to fit into the very narrow mold that most of us are taught we should fit into. So even though we both came from the same mother, I think the different bodies that we grew up with made a difference with how soon we had to accept ourselves.
It's interesting because I know that I would say I grew up always as a bigger woman, always, couldn't fit the kids' clothes, always in the plus clothes. And so my body acceptance has always been quite positive as well. My mom also was really supportive, but my face has always presented slimmer. And so I do find I self-select photographs a lot where even, if I'm laughing, I'll see the double chin before I see the expression on my face. And what a
Mhm.
shame. That's actually what you post about a little bit as well, that, how people feel when they're absorbing, looking at themselves. Um, People are now paying money to get rid of double chins. What do you say to someone who would share with you that they're taking pains to even, alter themselves?
So I always like to make it very clear, especially as a body image educator, that I never want to fault somebody for doing the thing that they think they need to do in order to find confidence or feel good about themselves in a society that expects them to do that. And because, your body, your choice, that's what we want to perpetuate as much as possible. And so it does fall in that line. So instead of judging somebody for wanting to get a surgery or change their body in any way. Instead, I think we need to look at the society that makes them feel that they need to do those things in the first place. Now, if somebody came to me saying they wanted advice about, like, should I do this? Should I not do this? I think I would just try to give them a different perspective on their double chin or whatever part of themselves they're curious about changing, and help them see that, like, our double chin specifically are like a genetics for the most part, because everybody of any size can have a double chin. It doesn't matter what size you are, but it's what that body part represents that is the thing that's getting us stuck, right? And we've been taught that if you have a double chin, it means that you're fat or bad, and fat is bad, or you're bigger and being bigger is bad. So we need to get rid of any evidence of that. And so I would just encourage them to understand, like you said, the photos of you where you have double chins or where you're being an expressive human. Like, would you take away your joy just so you don't have a double chin? I would hope not. And also, I would like to remind people, like doing an exercise, which I talk about in my TED talk, like take your phone and take a photo from that angle. Realize that you're still alive. People still love you. And to be honest, that's the angle that your children, your grandchildren, your babies, your pets see you at. And they love you. They don't, nobody cares at the end of the day. Like nobody cares.
Isn't that a funny thing, right? That was part of your post on Insta where you were like, by the way, this is actually how everyone's seen you the whole time. So
Yeah.
surprise. And they're seeing you. They're not seeing
Yeah.
chin.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, when we look at ourselves in photographs or in a mirror or otherwise, we our body parts come to represent certain parts of ourselves that we dislike. But when we look at somebody else that maybe has a very similar body to us, and we're like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. That's because we see their inherent goodness and the beautiful magic that other people are. But it's harder for us to see that in ourselves because we know all of our shame, our pain, our trauma, and so on. And we've been taught that, well, if you feel those things, it's a result of your body not adhering to beauty standards, which isn't true. So we have to do the work to kind of recognize, what am I actually afraid of? If it is that you are afraid of aging, why is that? Let's get curious about it. Who taught you that having a double chin is not a good thing? Where did you first learn that? Because these ideas were not yours to begin with. You learned them from somebody else.
Um, I'm not picking on the younger generation because I think this is prevalent, as we've discussed, in all generations. But I am wondering, because the younger generation would have grew up more visually and with the option for filters and such, how important it is that we own this and move body positivity forward to make sure that we can provide strength, especially women to women. And I shouldn't say that, maybe just provide strength generation to generation.
Yeah, because now they're showing, like, statistically that men are also like suffering more with body image than they ever have before. And because of the, like you said, the visual representations that we're seeing on what is an acceptable body through social media and the media in general, which has always been slightly problematic, and not showing the different diversity. So one of the things that I do recommend people to do is actually don't aim for body positivity, because I think that sets us up to fail, because that implies like a pendulum swing from like body dislike all the way over to body love. That's a pretty far distance to go. Instead, I encourage people to aim for body neutrality, which is more like, yeah, I don't love my double chin, but it's not going to stop me from showing up in the photos with the people that I love, right? So it's like you don't have to love it, but it is part of you. And the more photos you see of yourself or other people with double chins or whatever part of yourself you're insecure about, over time your brain's going to create evidence that counteracts the continuous evidence that we have that certain bodies are better than others, and realize that no, it's just part of you. It's not good or bad. It literally is just part of you.
Love that. Love all of it. Just before you go this morning, what are you hearing from other people who either don't have a problem with it or about the impact of your post?
So a big part of it is that people needed to be reminded of it, first of all, because it body image is one of those things that doesn't go away. Like, even as a body image educator, I still get the negative thoughts. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions out there with people, is that one day I'll never think about my body. No, we've been conditioned for the first half of our lives to think about our bodies, especially those of us socialized as women. And as a result of that, those thoughts are still going to come up. But what we can do when we get those thoughts is we have an opportunity to challenge them through curiosity instead of judgment. And again, ask questions. Who taught me this? Where did I learn this? Is this going to get me the outcome that I desire? Like, if you if you're on a trip with your family and you're being photographed, or if your friends or your wedding, which is a common one, like, what is the outcome you want to have? That you want to be present during your photos? Then you need to kind of get curious about why that part of yourself is holding you back so much, I think. So just ask questions.
Well put. Thank you very much, Teri. Appreciate you sharing with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.